Welcome to AEC Unplugged. I'm your host, Danielle Gray. I currently serve as the Director of Content and Knowledge Resources at SMPS HQ. Thanks for coming today. Did you like our opening video? I'm really excited about it. It's the little things. We got to find the joy in the little things. Okay, so if you have never heard of AEC Unplugged before, if this is your first time joining, thank you for coming. One. Two, let me tell you a little bit more about what this is about. AEC Unplugged is an intimate space where we really have this great opportunity to talk to our thought leaders about trends, about insights that are connected to our industry. But in the last episode, I actually related it to this is about human intelligence, HI, in a world of AI. So it's really about community, it's about connection, and I am really excited to have you here. So, if you're human, go ahead and let us know where you are joining in from in the comments. I am in Atlanta, Georgia. So please, in the comments, let us know where you're joining from. Okay, so as I talked about before we get into this episode about future proofing, which is going to be a great conversation, by the way. I want to also share some upcoming programming because I am in programming. That's what I am here to do. So there's going to be a few really interesting topics that are coming up. One of which is going to be one of our guests today. Troy Parkinson is crafting winning approaches for AEC interviews. As you can see, is very much future proofing. Let's go to the next one. We have maximizing ROI with Emma. She's going to be great. She's actually in SMPS Ontario chapter. We've had some really great discussions, and I think it's really interesting. She is an engineer turned marketer, so I think that insight about data driven marketing strategies is going to be really great to tune in for. Also, Amplify. Okay, Amplify AEC. If you haven't been, if you have been, this is the must attend conference for every AEC growth professional, quite honestly. By the way, as you can see, the early bird rate is closing soon. So before February 28th, go ahead and register. Get your registration now. Okay. And then finally, our other guest today, Jennifer, she already spoke earlier this year, last month, about sustainable marketing strategies that is again part of this future proofing conversation. So it is available on demand, just like it will be for Troy after the live. All of these programs are available to watch again. So don't feel like, oh, I have a meeting, I have something that I can't go to. Don't let that stop you from registering for these events. Okay, I've done plenty talking, plenty plugging, but it's all important. It's all for the greatest good. And specifically the CPSMs, there are CEUs available. Oh, and guess what? I got this insight. You can now get CEUs by watching AEC Unplugged point 0.5 CEU. So, okay, let's give it. I don't know. I'm really excited about that. That makes me feel very great. So please be sure to tune in with that as well. All right. My camera is going in and out. Okay. I don't know. I'm going to keep. Okay. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. Real IT issues. Now let's go ahead and move into the episode at hand. We are talking about future proofing AEC strategies. We know that there's a lot of things going on, a lot of things changing, and how do we stay ahead of it as AEC professionals? So we will talk to Jennifer and Troy about two separate topics. So let's just go ahead and jump right into the episode. I want to bring in Jennifer Haferbecker, CPSM, also fractional CMO, on your market, set, go. Welcome, Jennifer. How you doing?
Hi. Good, Danielle. How are you? It's so good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for Really, I mean, I when I saw your topic about what your webinar was about sustainability, I thought it was so good and also really key to this whole idea of future proofing. So, thank you for being considerate and thoughtful enough to even think about it. It means a lot. So, I'm gonna just jump right in. Okay, I always start my interviews with this question, which is, how did you find your way into the AEC industry?
I think I'm like everyone else and just sort of stumbled into it
Yep.
unintentionally. I actually went to school for nursing. And at the time, I was also working full time as a project manager for a commercial interiors firm. And I got to the point in the nursing program where I did my generals and now you had to go into like the 2 years of clinicals. And I knew it was going to ramp up and get more intense. And I honestly just didn't think I could handle it while I was working full time. So I probably made the most short-sighted decision I've ever made and decided to transfer and go to business. And while I did that, I continued working at the commercial firm and ended up working my way up through project management into sales, account management, into leadership. Had became the one and only marketer in that firm for a while, and spent 19 years in that path within commercial interiors, and realized to further my career, I needed to take that next step and joined a national interdisciplinary design firm as the director of marketing. So jump
Nice.
to the front of the design circle versus sort of the middle and the end of it. Had a great experience at the firm. After a few years, I became their first CMO and just had a wonderful team of communications and marketing and BDs. And we realized that to continue my path, I really needed and wanted to step out. And so I've now become an independent consultant. I'm a fractional CMO, really helping AEC firms drive their revenue growth and build high performance, high value marketing teams through strategy and leadership.
I
So yeah,
love
it's
that.
been, yeah.
You act as though I'm sure you just drew that all up right at the beginning. That was exactly exactly how this
That's
works.
the plan.
You're
Yeah,
right.
exactly. Yeah.
It's so interesting because I have this awesome opportunity to talk to so many people within our industry, and it is consistent
Yeah.
that a lot of us did not find our way or didn't think about this, especially being, 6 years old, like,
Right.
I want to be in AEC marketing.
Yeah.
And so, but there's such a passion for it that I've seen that's consistent, which is really, really cool as well. So, last month you led a webinar, Sustainable Marketing Strategies for a Greener Future. Why? I when I got it, I was like, "Oh, this is such a good topic." Why do you believe it's important for us to discuss right now,
Yeah.
and why is it overall just important to understand at this time?
Well, the webinar was really fun. And so I just want to thank you again for the opportunity to share and to further this conversation. And we started that webinar by discussing why sustainability is so important. And clients, employees, investors, they're all increasingly seeking firms that go beyond just delivering really quality work. They want partners now who can help them achieve strategic priorities. And more of them are making sustainability a core pillar of their strategy because they're seeing tangible financial benefits to it. They are seeing a positive impact to the way that they can attract and retain top talent. And more companies are starting to have a clear understanding of their ethical responsibilities in building a resilient future. So, as AEC professionals, we play a dual role. We are helping our clients through those challenges, but we're also navigating them ourselves as a business within our firms. And it starts to impact everything from the approach to the work that we do, to the internal operations of our firms and the commitments that we make, as well as how we market. So, we explored in the webinar what sustainable marketing is and what it isn't. It's not just about promoting eco friendly products or services anymore. It's about realigning the role of marketers by using a responsible lens that adapts to the evolving needs of the industry and shifting opinion. Like, think now how much pressure there is for companies to understand their impact on what's happening in the world around us. So we're moving away from benefiting this small group of shareholders to a view that is looking at the benefit to a larger group of stakeholders. And those stakeholders include the well-being of all people and the planet, as well as profit. So we know that the demand for responsible, resilient practice, it continues to rise, as does the demand for people who want to work for firms that make a positive impact. So, for marketers and business developers, understanding how to weave those values into the story of your firm can really be a powerful differentiator. And I think one of the most important reasons, and there's just a wealth of research out there that proves that firms that do this actually build really strong relationships, they increase their competitive edge, and it opens up doors to new opportunities, which is a great way to future proof.
So what you're saying is we can help with the world and also help our firms as well, creating that competitive edge. I mean, it feels like a no-brainer, especially again
Yeah,
related to all this going on. And I think it's really important for us to be considering our planet. It's
exactly.
very important. So,
Yeah,
um, I was able to sit in on your webinar, and I just there were so many things, that so many aha moments, so many things that I didn't recognize that maybe I was doing that I could do differently. So what are some practical ways? You had a lot in this webinar, by
we
the way.
do.
You If you have not seen the webinar, I strongly recommend registering for this webinar. Um, what are some practical ways that we can all contribute to a more sustainable impact, even just in our daily lives?
For sure. We covered a lot, from differentiation all the way to authentic communication. And we did focus on how marketing can reduce our own environmental impact in our day-to-day work. We got tactical, right? We really dove into some tangible outcomes as well as addressing some of our intangible impact like digital waste. But I would take all the things that we talked about and summarize them into four categories.
Okay.
The first is setting goals. What gets measured gets attention. So, whether you're looking to reduce the impact of your events, minimize the carbon footprint of your digital campaigns, lower energy consumption for your digital practice, it's important to understand where you are, like your current state, and then you can set some measurable goals for improvement. And we're talking start small, pick one or two goals and then build from there. And in the webinar, we covered a lot of practical things like the life cycle costs of swag, how to reduce food waste at events, even all the way to print considerations, which are becoming more important now as clients ask for more print material. The second piece, I would say, or the second category was around going back to the basics. The traditional best practices that we consider in marketing most often, in many ways, are sustainable. So, especially in the digital space, efficiency, effectiveness, and being audience centric those strategies should be at the core of your marketing approach. So things like auditing your contacts on a regular basis
Mhm.
also, helps improve your bounce rate and lower your cost of your email platform. Hyper targeting ads helps you reduce your ad budget and improve your conversion rate. Optimizing content for faster loading times, eliminating unnecessary emails, even consolidating your hosting platforms. There are just so many ways that we can lower our environmental impact while also improving our performance and our ROI.
Okay.
The third piece I would say goes around focusing on your personal e-waste. Consider the life cycle of all of the different platforms and the electronic devices that you have. How often do you need to upgrade those devices versus want to upgrade them?
Mm.
How much redundancy is there across all of the different technology platforms that you use? Sometimes we get a platform or a tool because we like one specific feature, and then we end up with four tools that all have calendars or workload management or CRM in them. So, really look at your tech stack to understand how to leverage it for efficiency and consistency. It can go all the way to reducing your own digital storage by unsubscribing from unnecessary
Yeah.
emails or newsletters that you don't want. archiving or heaven forbid, like deleting drafts when you get to the final and you've done your closeout for a deliverable, and even deleting duplicate assets. One example, I worked for a firm. The marketing team worked primarily in a network drive. And the IT team did an audit of the drive and found there was one image that was also in our DAM that had been downloaded and saved over 100 times inside of the network. So that duplicity, like that redundancy, really starts to add up when you talk about your digital spend.
Mm.
Um, and the last one I would say was around continuing your personal journey and your education. As marketing professionals, we need to be at the front edge of marketing trends, like what's happening in our marketing industry to really help our own professional growth. So, to help with this, we included a lot of resources in the webinar that people can continue their own education. But for this conversation, I would just reinforce specific to your knowledge on sustainability, collaborate with the sustainability experts or leaders, whatever their titles are in your firm. They probably have the deepest understanding of what your firm is doing operationally, but also what's happening inside of projects. And they can be a great partner of how you can tell those stories in an authentic and inspiring way. And I would just add, maybe please don't forget to share. Like as you learn, share with other people to help them along in their journey as well.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I have one more question for you, and I was going to preface it with something, but I have a feeling you're probably going to share this words of wisdom. So, what words of wisdom would you share with someone that is learning about sustainability, wanting to make an impact? What would you share?
That's a hard question. There are just so many great things.
Yeah.
Recently the Pacific Regional Conference, it happened a couple of weeks ago, and there were just so many great sessions, including Troy. Troy had a great session on hybrid presentations.
Mhm.
One of the things I keep coming back to was a keynote that Damian Morris did on the power of asking really good questions.
Mm.
He emphasized that by asking sincere and authentic questions, you can have a real impact. So I would encourage that, for me, asking good questions is also about actively listening and most importantly, staying curious.
Mhm.
Curiosity drives that deeper understanding. It builds stronger relationships and it helps you make better decisions. And it's not about having the answers, it's really about just consistently seeking to learn and to grow professionally and personally. So I would recommend just stay curious, and it'll open doors to new opportunities and innovative solutions that you might not even be able to imagine currently exist.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for taking the time to talk
Thanks
about
for having
this.
me.
Absolutely. And be sure if you're tuning in, register for the her sustainable marketing strategies webinar, 90 minutes. It's awesome. Okay, so be sure to do that. Now let's move on to the next future proofing discussion. I want to introduce Troy Parkinson, principal at Sage Presence. uh, Look, we've done this before, Troy. You've been on AEC Unplugged.
It's great to be back. Thanks so much for having me again today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for being here. So, last time we actually were talking about professional networking when you were on. So I'm excited to have you to talk about AEC interviews, which it all seems to kind of be connected with the people portion of this. So interviews can make or break AEC pursuit. And I see like many firms approach them the same way every time. So, from your experience, what are some the biggest mistakes teams can make in these high stake interviews?
It's a thing that we see quite often from coast to coast, which is you have firms with leaders who are comfortable with the way they've always done it. They've done it 20 years a certain way, they've done it 30 years a certain way. And so the idea of rehearsing is probably the thing that we see lacks the most for firms. Is they might prepare, they might have some team meetings, they may come together as a team in preparation in how they're going to approach the interview, But what they lack is the actual rehearsal process, because they think, oh, we'll just talk through it. Oh, we want to keep it fresh. We don't want to over rehearse so that it feels stale when we get there. But the reality is there is a next generation of leaders in firms who are maybe don't have 20 years experience in interviews. And it would be helpful for them to actually get a sense of cadence. How are we going to come across together? So I would say not rehearsing, as they say it, is probably the number one thing people don't do, which could impact the greatest success in their pursuits.
Well, and I see that even a friend of mine was preparing for a speech of some sort that was internal to her firm, and it's like, okay, I think I'm ready. I'm like, well, have you said the words out loud? You have to say, like, it's a practice. You got to get it out. Rehearsing is really important. So I'm there's so many things that I want to ask, but I'll try to keep it. I'll try to keep it together. Look, on February 27th, you are going to be leading this webinar, Crafting Winning Approaches for AEC Interviews. Based on this description, this webinar isn't just about theory, it's about interactivity and hands-on. So can you give us a sneak peek into what people can expect from this webinar that they can really walk away with?
Absolutely. I first and foremost, if for people that are thinking about attending, I would really come with your key interview questions. What are the challenges you face as you're helping your teams prepare for those major project interviews? Because oftentimes people think there's a standard approach to doing an interview. We're just going to go, we're going to present, and we're going to do the standard process for the experience. But there are some real nuances that, when given an opportunity to create an interactive experience with selection panels, when allowed, it creates more of a dialogue and a conversation with individuals rather than that formal presentation. I think the other dynamic that we will uncover in this webinar is how to really work with teams trying things out in the lead up to the interview. I know the pressure is always high. So the idea of locking in on something can be nerve-wracking for people. And so the idea that you could practice a couple of different approaches to how you want to relay the information can create sort of a freshness and an excitement for people that allows them to recognize, oh, what we're really doing is being ourselves in front of this selection committee. And what we want to be able to do is provide value and information so that the selection committee sees we're the team, we're the people that they want to work with. Because at the end of the day, if you're shortlisted, everybody on that shortlist can do the job. That's why they're there. They understand that. What they want to see are the people who are going to be working with them day to day and how they interact and how they work as a team.
I love that. So I've got a question for you that I did not put on the list. I'm putting you completely, I'm putting you on the spot here. When we think about future proofing, how do you see what you're talking about, AEC interviews and crafting this experience? How is that future proofing for firms?
Yeah, when you think about future proofing, at least the way I interpret future proofing, it is the ability to make sure that the work continues in the future, that opportunities are there in the future, and that you're positioning yourself as a team. You know, when we think about winning AEC interviews within Sage Presence, we really think of winning in three ways. Of course, number one is winning the interview itself. Everybody wants to go in and win the work. So we appreciate that, but nobody can ever guarantee that win. Mm-hmm. Even the best presentations, the best communications, sometimes at the end of the day, for whatever reason, politics, a number of other reasons, people don't get the work. So winning is number one. But number two is making sure that your team shows up to that ready to present, feeling completely confident in how they're communicating their message, so that when they're done with that interview, they feel like they've done the best they possibly could. And so they win that day, feeling like they gave it their all and they gave it everything they could. That's probably, in my opinion, the strongest win of all, because you want your people to feel confident, win or lose, that they were the team to come forward and they presented the best they could. That third win that we speak about is the long game, that future opportunities with selection committees, because even if you don't win this pursuit, you can position yourself to be in a way to win future opportunities because of the way they see you showing up. I can share one example. I recently worked with a general contracting firm, and They had been on an interview with a particular school district 7 times. They had interviewed 7 times to try to get onto a project in that school district, and they kept coming back and coming back and coming back. And that perseverance and that dedication, it's easy for teams to say, I'm done with 2, I'm done with 3 if I didn't get 3 times.
Right.
But to keep going shows your commitment to the community. And that's what selection committees are really hungry for. They want to see that your team is committed not only to the project, but to the community that it's impacting.
I feel like I learn something from you every time. I am genuinely looking forward to this. I think when we think about who should be on this webinar, obviously I think always comes up is our business development team, our marketer should be a part of this. But would you also suggest, the seller doers, the experts, I guess the technical experts, to be a part of this discussion too?
Absolutely. Anyone who has done an interview, is going to be in an interview, or is maybe considered in the future being positioned to be in interviews would all find value in this experience. I mean, really, it's about engaging in a conversation that has people pause and reflect, to think differently about the way they've been doing things. And a lot of the times when firms work with us and they bring us on to support their teams, they're doing so because they recognize they need to do something different. The competition is getting harder and harder these days. More and more people are submitting proposals for projects. Recently I was speaking to someone and they said, before we could count on maybe 3 or 4 individuals or companies applying for these particular pursuits. Now, when we see a request for proposal, they're getting 15 to 20, and the competition is so much more fierce. They can't rely on previous existing work with clients. Although that's the great way to continue to work, it isn't always going to sustain that way. And 2, they need to recognize that the competition is going to get harder. As we see more and more firms in some situations be acquired, and a consolidation occurs, and mergers are occurring for firms, more and more companies are getting into the game. And we're even seeing national firms get into local markets more, which is causing the local firms to have to up their game, because they're trying to figure out, how do we best compete with a national firm that provides more? But it's all about relationships and pre-positioning. No matter how prepared you are for an interview, it really depends on what you've been doing in the lead up to that experience as well. So getting to have those relationships. So principals, business development leaders, seller doers, anyone who wants to gain some new insight around how to approach interviews, I would highly welcome them to join us that day.
Great. Thank you so much, Troy. I think there's also a pro tip that I want to share with those watching. You can register for the webinar. You can watch it live, or you can also watch it on demand, and bring in a group of people into a conference room. Bring in the business developers, bring in the technical folks. I think that would be really, really helpful, so that you can really maximize this experience. So before we go, words of wisdom, what would you share with those AEC growth professionals joining us today?
My biggest word of wisdom is to recognize that you're not going to change anybody from your team. The idea of you trying to come in and coach someone to change is the hardest thing to do.
That's good, Troy.
The recognition is that you can help people elevate their light. You can help them elevate their confidence and their communication. It's like a light on a dimmer switch. Nothing is ever on off. There's always subtleties, and there's always subtle ways that you can help elevate. So think about it in terms of elevating teams, and less about changing that person so that they don't look so difficult when they present. It's about helping them find their own internal confidence so that they can present as the team they want to hire.
Oh, so good. So good. Thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure.
Troy.
Always a joy to be here. Thanks for having me, and great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you, Troy. Wow. I don't know about you guys, but I feel really good about this episode. So many great insights from both Jennifer and Troy. I think the one thing that really is resonating, especially what Troy just said, is, don't try to change anybody. Find your authentic voice, allow others and inspire others to find their authentic voice, so that everybody can show up in their most full self, in their most elevated way. And I think that's so good. So look, we have some programming. If you didn't see at the top part of this, Troy, who we just spoke with, is having an upcoming webinar on February 27th. So please register for that. You get 1.5 CEUs. March 20th, we have another a webinar, Maximizing ROI, with Emma. She will actually be a guest coming up, so there'll be more conversation about how to use these data-driven marketing strategies for success. Amplify AEC, got to do it. Make sure you register. Early bird rate will be ending at the end of this month, February 28th. So just do it now before you forget. And then if you join the very top part of this interview, we had a great discussion with Jennifer to talk about sustainable marketing and strategies for a greener future. So look, there's a lot that we discuss. I think a lot that definitely feel good about future proofing our AEC strategy. So look, I hope that if this did not inspire you to do something different, I hope it inspired you to be something different. Thank you so much for joining AEC Unplugged, and we will see you next time. Thanks.